Good morning. It is good to be here. Appreciate the invitation, the opportunity to be able to tell you a little bit about things that are taking place overseas, some of the work that is taking place. Specifically, I'll be talking about the trip that we took last year around this time and kind of the activity that has taken place. Toward the end of the presentation, I will explain a little bit more of things that have occurred even since then. As we talk about where it is that we were working. We lived in Tanzania, East Africa for a little over 3 years, and the congregation here very supportive in that work, and we're very appreciative of that. And then the congregation here and the elders took the oversight of that work some years back as far as the aspect of printing materials. And so I've continued to work with the brethren there in regards to translation and materials in Swahili, and to print those materials and to distribute them throughout the country so that the brethren could have materials in their own language. If we're talking about who it is, and it looks like, you're going to the zoo because of all these animals, but they're in Tanzania. So this is the group that went on this trip. I had two of my daughters. My oldest daughter was supposed to go. She could not. She got tick fever, was hospitalized right before, and so she was not able to go. However, her fiance was able to go. That's the blonde-haired gentleman. That's Josh Alexander. Now my oldest daughter is married, and he's the preacher at the Foothills Church of Christ in Searcy, Arkansas, and that's where my oldest daughter lives there with him. And so we have Mary Kate and Lily also that went a part of that trip, and Matthew Crosswhite. He is a high school teacher. He teaches mathematics. Also has served as a gospel preacher, served as a deacon, and currently he is a member at Center Star, where I'm working currently in outside Killen, Alabama. And so you can see kind of the group that went on this specific trip as a part of changes of my family. As I stated, now I've had the oldest. She's married and moved off, and then we've added another to our family. We adopted a little man you'll see later on as we come out from class. His name is Nathaniel. He's named after me and my dad. And so we adopted him. We are foster parents, have had a lot of kids in and out of the house. I think he was the 10th child that we had that had came in and out of the house, but he didn't go out. He was able to stay. We were able to adopt him after 2 years. And so that's a big change, considering my youngest daughter, when you look at all of the three that I have, is 19 and he's 2. So starting all over again. And this time with a boy, having 3 girls, and now we have him. And so a lot of changes in our family. If you look at the dates, this was the time that we went. It was almost basically 3 weeks. That was a little bit more than that because the other 2 days on the beginning and the end are travel days. It takes a little while to get over. So I'm going to do this day by day. And so you're just going to see what it looks like to spend 3 weeks in Tanzania. So we landed in Kilimanjaro, which is where Mount Kilimanjaro is. So we landed there in the north of Tanzania. Normally I don't schedule flights on Sunday, but that's just how the flights worked out. And so we were literally flying Sunday morning. We landed, got through customs, drove straight to the congregation, and had worship. And so Josh didn't even get a chance to change his britches. He was still in jeans from traveling on the airplane. Because we literally landed, and we went in, and we weren't really planning on doing any work at this congregation. We were just visiting and encourage them. It's a small congregation. And we walked in, and they're like, okay, who's teaching class and who's preaching? And so we had an opportunity to get the guys involved right away. And so I told them they needed to have some material in the pocket so they could break it out and microwave it real quick and be able to then you just never know. You might show up and you might be leading singing. You just don't know until they stand up and say, and today's order of worship is you're leading singing. That's happened to me so many times. And I'm like, oh, and I had to lead singing in Swahili, which is challenging. And then and so-and-so is going to be preparing the lesson. Oh, I didn't know I was going to be doing that, but I'm ready. And so you always have to be on the ready. So we were there at this small congregation, and it was a blessing to be with them. And then we had to travel and to try to get everything set up and get to where we were going, it took us a while. Even though we arrived first thing in the morning, we didn't get to the place that we were going to lay our heads on day one until dark, because it took us a while to travel to where we were going. So day two, we were in the main city of Arusha in the north of Tanzania, and we had to prepare. And a lot of preparation. We had to make coloring sheet. Had to print off all of our coloring sheets for the VBSs the girls were going to do. We had to do a lot of preparation in town. I had to rearrange some airline tickets. I had to make sure our bags got to our next destination. Because we traveled so much in this trip and hit so many different places in this country, which is a big country, there was a lot of moving bags and shuffling around. But we did this so that we could get the materials to those places and to be there and to make sure that they were distributed to the brethren. And so this day, I told them it was going to be a rest day, and it wasn't. I mean, we were going nonstop. Matter of fact, on this day, which was our travel day, we didn't actually get to the place we were going until midnight. So our supper, we didn't get lunch, and our supper was at midnight. So when I say it was a rest day or a travel day, it was a very hard day. But on the way up to the mountain where we were going to stay, there was a hedgehog. It's 11:30 at night. Half the people are asleep on the bus, and I'm like, stop the bus. And I jumped out and ran and tried to catch one, and I missed him. And we got back on the bus, and I'm like, all right, let's go. I saw another one. I'm like, stop the bus. I jumped off, and I grabbed that hedgehog. I caught him. And I brought him back on the bus, and I'm like, you guys need to see this. You're not going to see this anywhere else. Here, you can. So you got to hold him. He's a little prickly. And I was able to hold him, and they were able to see that little guy. But that's a picture, not of Kilimanjaro, but Mount Meru there in Tanzania. So we finally went up, and we stayed on the top of the mountain where we were staying on that night. And so we got there at 12 and had supper. And then we got up very early the next day, 6 a.m. for breakfast, traveled over to the congregation. We started a seminar, and this congregation, I struggle saying the name of it. Even we had some translators with us, and they could hardly say the name of the place. It's Indamamarieki, and that's a rough translation. Even the Tanzanians were having a hard time saying the name of that place. But we were able to go to this congregation. We did a one-day seminar, and they packed the house. We were able, as we were going along to each congregation that we visited, to drop off a World Video Bible School kit. It's got a projector, it's got all the materials and resources that are there, including Swahili materials and resources included in that, so that they can play videos that are in Swahili, they can play, it's just tons of information on these hard drives along with the projectors. And so we had a seminar. This is the preacher trying out the projector, but we had a seminar there. And while we were there, this particular preacher, he's a go-getter, he's young, and so we dropped off microphones and stuff that he could use for social media. And if you looked online, you would see he's very, very active, very busy. But we were also able to give out the materials. Even though we had a seminar, you can see the crowd. When I say we packed the house, it was a great crowd. And in that crowd, you can see the books that they're holding up. Let's see. This right here, Why I'm a Member of the Church of Christ by Leroy Brownlow in Swahili. And then you'll see some of the other ones I can't see real good because they're pretty far back. But they were able to get the Church of the Bible by J.C. Choate in Swahili as well. And so while we were doing this, the girls were having a VBS. And it was just my two daughters, along with the translator, that did the VBS. And they had all these kids. And it was quite a challenge for them to manage that. But that's the VBS my girls did for that congregation. And boy, they had a very good one. On day 3, that's just a bunch of information to tell you, this was still day 3 at night. We went by to see a children's home. So on day 2, we had to go buy rice and beans and flour and all kinds of supplies, soccer balls and whatever I could get a hold of, so that when we dropped by the children's home, that is run by a graduate of the Andrew Conley School of Preaching, gospel preacher, and his wife, and we could provide these supplies. So after our seminar, we drove out to this children's home, and we were able to visit with them. And it tugged on Matthew's heart. He had a little girl come over and said, "Would you be my daddy?" It was challenging. But these are the kids that were there. She wanted to go home with him, and he was really touched by that. But we were able to drop off some dresses as well. that I remember the church at Center Star made. And so we were able to go in and kind of see the facilities. And they had gotten this goat. It was a white goat. It just baby. They had just had it. And they said they were going to name this goat after me. So everybody got a real kick out of that. But anyways, it was an exhausting day because honestly we drove back and I wanted to show everybody the Andrew Conley School of Preaching. We arrived at 1:15 a.m. and I said, here's the buildings on the outside. And so we arrived at our hotel at 2 a.m., checked in, and then we got back up at 7:30 a.m. to be on our way. So that wasn't much rest. So it was like that. I thought these guys were going to fall out. You start getting grumpy after not getting a whole lot of sleep for the first few days, and they were already jet lagged. But when we hit the ground running, we hit the ground running, and we didn't stop. And so then we had a travel day where we were traveling from, and you can see here, let me see, there we go. We were traveling from Arusha, and our other seminar I was just showing you was here. So we traveled over here and then all the way over to Mwanza. It's off of Lake Victoria. So this area here is Lake Victoria. And so we got on the plane, we traveled over, we arrived, and we're able to kind of get settled in. And it's really pretty, but it's hot. And we're there during winter, and it was hot. Some of the guys had fans in their rooms. For me and my girls in the room we had no circulation, no fan, no AC, and it was hot. So that was a true experience. But then on day 5, since we were on the other side, it provided us a unique access because we were right by the Serengeti. And so we took a tourist day, because that's what we had on our visas, tourist visas. So that we could go in, except for those that were preachers, had the work visa. The girls had a tourist visa. So we got to make sure that they actually did a little tourism while we were there. And so we went to Serengeti, and it was an interesting day. I told Matthew, this is a rest day. I ran you real hard the first couple of days. This is a rest day. We went through that, and at the end of the day, he was like, I thought this was a rest day. He said, I'm exhausted because it's hot, you don't have AC, and you're being tossed all over and your ribs hurt. But hey, it was cool because they were able to see the animals, and I think they were excited. That was a cheetah that they saw just sitting out in the Serengeti. Day 6, we started a 3-day seminar in Mwanza, and so we had gospel preaching during this time. We had a good group of people. Some people from distant areas came in, and the girls also did a VBS with all of the kids. And they had another great group of kids where they were teaching VBS, and you can see the kids that are there. They had a bunch. And I was really proud of my Lily. She used her skills to create these coloring sheets. She created them from scratch on software, and then we printed them out, and so that's what they were using. And so if you can see here, this is someone stealing something, and they're on a motorcycle, and they've come by and swiped something. And so they were talking about that, and they were teaching the kids, and so it was just something that she created for them as they were going through and they were teaching. And so while that was going on and the VBS is going on, we were having seminars all day long for 3 days straight. And so it was a great blessing to be able to do so. This is at a school. This is Christopher Makabanji. He's a graduate of Memphis School of Preaching. This is Israel, who I've worked with for many years in Tanzania. And of course, I had already mentioned Josh that was with us. This is Emmanuel Njovu. He's also a graduate of Memphis School of Preaching. And this here is Maurice, and he helps with another work that's going on there in Tanzania. So day 7, we continued on preaching and teaching. Here's us eating. They provided a meal for us, and it was a great blessing. And as you can see, you can choose to have silverware, but nobody else there was using it, and we're just used to eating it like that, so we just dug right in. But you can see all the kids as they were continuing to teach. While we were there, we were able to provide, again, a resource. This is the Steve Thayer School of Evangelism, and Mwakabanji has this over there. And like I said, it's a fair distance from where we were in the other school. If you were to drive it, it would take all day. We flew, so we were able to get there, but it would take all day to try to go from one place to the other. And so we were able to give him a projection kit for the school. You also see the thumb drive he's holding. Burns, yeah, Jonathan. And the work that he does, putting the materials on the jump drives, that's what's on there. And so I was able to contact him, and he was able to give us some resources, and so we were able to hand those out as well. And so day 8, we worship, and those are some of the topics. If you can read it, that's fine. But Josh was sick, and I forgot what it was. I think he had strep throat or something, and he had a fever. He got up there and preached still, And I finally told him, you need to go rest and get in the truck, and we'll take care of the rest. But he did get up and preach. And this was the group that we had, and a very, very good group. You're curious about the food that we eat? Plantain meat stew. So it's not bananas, it's plantains. And they boil those, and it tastes like a potato. It's got the texture of a potato. It's pretty good. It's just different. Here is them handing out the Church of the Bible by J.C. Choate. And they also had the other book as well, but that's the picture that we have there. And then we also provided some dresses for some of the young kids that were in need. And so here we have some of the pictures of them, as they were just as cute as can be. Celebrated Mary Kate's birthday while we were there, and so I took her to a place that served ice cream, and so that was really nice. Then we had travel day, day 9. We traveled from Mwanza all the way back to Arusha, all the way down to Dar es Salaam. So we're traveling from over here to Lake Victoria. We had to go back to where we started and then travel here. That's just the way the planes go. And it was a very long day. There's the plane that we took, pretty good sized plane. Before we left, this was an image at Mwanza. So that's Lake Victoria and one of the famous rocks that they have there. So then day 10 is a travel day because we traveled a lot. We went from Dar to another school that has been started by Gage Coldwater and the Manna Project at the Talawanda School. So we traveled, and ultimately we're trying to get to Morogoro, which is where we were going to have our next seminar. And so here it gives you a little bit of an idea. This is where we landed, and we were traveling in ultimately to go down. And so when we woke up, we were right there on the water. And of course, this is the ocean that you're looking out at. And we got to have breakfast, and then we took off. On the way to where we were going, we passed by a croc park, and I thought, man, I got to show them these crocs. They are huge, as big as this pew, massive. Some of these things are just huge. They throw in whole cows, and they just take care of them. That's so they got to see a little bit of that. It was pretty interesting. And then we stopped by the Talawanda School to provide them some resources and materials. They're holding up the jump drive from the mission work, the digital mission work. And this is the school there and some of the facilities that they have at the school. And we're there with the students as well. And we provided them also with the printed material, the resources, the books that they can use in Swahili. Day 11, we went to Morogoro, finally. And we had another seminar for 3 days in this place. And Morogoro is where we built the Shule ya Biblia, which is a small Bible study center. And so we were able to visit with Bright, who lives there. He was my translator the whole time I lived overseas. And so he is working there with the congregation. And so this is the VBS that they had. And then they provided us with some food each afternoon. And so we had roasted corn, banana, oranges, watermelon, very good, great food. And so we had a very good seminar. And then you can see the building and the people, and we were able to be with them for 3 days. Here's Lily playing in the dirt. It's called Mancala. And usually they have a board, or ubao, which is board. They have a board that they use and little beads that they move around. But you can make holes, a bunch of holes, and move rocks. And that's how the kids do it. And so she remembered that from when we lived there, and she was just down there playing with the kids, the game that they all love. I love Morogoro. It's beautiful with the mountains. It's very, very pretty. And so here's some of the pictures of the children from the VBS that the girls had. Here's another image of the circle roundabout there in Morogoro, and some of the VBS and the kids as well. You just never know what you're going to end up with. Some of these places had buildings and nice facilities. This one had a nice building, but they don't have a classroom for the kids. So to have the class for the kids, it's outside, and you just put down a mat. And so that's what they did for those days. And thankfully, we were there during winter. June is winter. So it's warm, but it's not blistering hot. So it's actually very comfortable. And I was telling Matthew, I said, look, you need to bring a jacket, because when we get up to Iringa, which is the last place we were at, it's going to be cold. And he didn't believe me. And they were joking with me the whole time. And when he got there, he was like, oh, this is so nice. But eventually when that wind kicked up, he was like, okay, now I see why you wanted me to bring one. But I think he was like, I'm too good for that. I'm not wearing a jacket. But here is a picture of us at our supper. And Matthew's drinking a Sprite, just in case you're curious, but it's in a bottle. In day 13, we were still there. We did a 3-day seminar. Here's all the people that came in. A great part of this seminar is this gentleman. He traveled from the north of Tanzania. He was a contact of Bright, and so he had been talking to this guy. This guy's a Pentecostal preacher. And so he had been talking to him, and he said, hey, look, we're having a seminar. You want to come down? So we paid for his transport so that he could come down and be a part of the seminar. So he was a part of the seminar. And he asked a lot of questions. And so I'll tell you a little bit about him in a moment. But you can see some of the bracelets that the kids made. This is Swahili, but they ran out of the letters for Swahili. So some of them had English, but they were putting different things on it, and they made it with the kids. As you can see, kind in Wema, Uzuri, those are Swahili words. But here this guy was there, and I'll never forget him getting up in front of the congregation, and this is at the end of the seminar, and he was like, what I have realized is that these people that have been teaching me all these years are liars. Because I've seen it in the Bible. And he realized that what he had been taught was not really what was true. And when he actually had a chance to get into the text of the Bible, and that's why Israel's laughing, the translator, because he's translating it back to English so we could get what that guy was saying. The whole congregation laughed, and we're like, what'd they just say? At least for Matthew and them. And then we realized what he just said. It took him a while to get his composure to have to translate what that man said, but that's what he said. He said, I've been lied to. I've been deceived because what I have been told and what I thought was right is not what the Bible says. I see it. And so after the seminar was over, this was after we had left and we're back in the United States, I get these pictures of this gentleman who is a leader, has now been baptized into Jesus Christ. So you just never know the power of truth. You don't know the power of resources and the materials and things that end up getting into people's hands, because I think that they had sent him some of the resources. He had gone through some of the curriculum, but he had questions. And they're like, well, we're having a seminar. Why don't you come and you can ask questions? He asked questions. We gave him a Bible answer. We just opened up the Bible. The power that is in the Word of God to change a soul, it's there if given the opportunity, if you have a good and honest heart. Day 14, travel day. We went from Morogoro to Iringa. That was at a snake park. So that's a cobra. And so I wanted them to see all the snakes they had in Tanzania. And so there's Mary Kate holding a python. So we were able to do that. And then we did not get to Iringa till late at night. There was an accident in between the two places. And we sat in our buses for like 3 or 4 hours waiting for them to clear out the accident. And when that happens, you have traffic on both sides that have been waiting for hours, and it becomes very dangerous because they drive crazy. And so you had miles and miles and miles and miles of traffic, angry people trying to now go down a lane that's just 2 lanes and passing. We were sitting there, it's jammed. 2 buses decide they're going to go, and they met just like this, facing each other. And we're like, oh, great. Way to go, genius. What are you going to do now? And they had to sit there, and one of them had to give and get out of the way so that we could move, because they just sat there. And it's like everybody's blocked now. We're not going anywhere because they decided they were just going to be hard-headed about it, which is common, but we see people doing things like that, especially in travel. And so it caused us to get there very, very late. And that's one of the things when you do mission work, especially in Tanzania, you've got to be flexible, very flexible. I had to change flights several times to try to get us to accommodate what we were doing. I had to move stuff around. We had a breakdown. We got stuck and stranded, and the battery on a vehicle we rented didn't work, all kinds of stuff. But we made it. We just had to be flexible. So we got to Iringa on the Lord's Day. We were able to start our seminar on Sunday, and so we were able to have a meal with the congregation there, and this is where we worked. This is the congregation where we labored for a very long time. Again, I want you to think for a minute. Look around, think about the facilities and the blessings we do have, and often you don't think about it because this is all you know, this is all you see, this is what you're accustomed to, but it's not like that everywhere. And, so it is very different. This is a building. They were happy, have it because they didn't have land. This land the congregation owns. It's theirs. Nobody's going to take it away from them. And so we moved the bones of what was a mud brick building many years ago and put it there. And then they paid to put the wood up. And this is where the congregation sits. And so they've now made the improvements because they have a board up front. They didn't have these boards. They've done that. They use tarps. This time it was tarps. Before it was like flour sacks that they just put up to try to keep the sand and the rain and stuff from blowing through. But it kept us out of the sun, so we were extremely happy about that. And so we had our worship, dirt floors, and the benches, just a plank, and all-day seminar on a plank. And our brethren can't sit if the sermon goes over 10 minutes. You can. It just depends what your attitude is. And so here, they're no different than you. These people are old. People that have, very aged people that'll come and they'll sit in those same exact pews that the young people are sitting in. Are they in pain? Sure. But it has to do with attitude. And so this was the Bible class, the VBS that they did. The girls had to just go back on the back side of the property. When the sun would come out, sometimes they would try to jump under the mango tree, and our girls have done that many, many, many times, being underneath that mango tree. But it is, I would point out sometimes to some of the people what the giving is. What is that like? We were at the first congregation. I was like, I think the giving was like $1 a US or $2. So you're like, well, why don't they do something about that? Why? Well, there's a reason, isn't there? They don't have a significant amount of money or reserves or anything like that. And so it is very different, and the same as just a couple of bucks here with this congregation. And so how long would it take them to build a facility or have something like that? It would take a long time. And for them, we were there, and I want you to think about it. We were there with Christopher, and this is the preacher here. He's receiving this to use in the work, and he didn't ask for money. He didn't ask for us to build him a new building. He didn't ask for anything like that. You know what he asked us? Come back and do more evangelism. We loved having you guys. And Matthew was shocked. Matthew could not believe, because this was the end of the trip, and we were in nicer buildings, and the further we got, we began to get into homes, and they were able to see what it's like on a regular basis. And he was shocked that this man didn't ask for money to build them a new building. I mean, he didn't, because that wasn't the priority in his mind. His mind is, y'all have helped in so much, and coming back and being encouragement. That's what he was asking. Sadly, in the city of Iringa, the mosques are going up more and more and more. Muslims are very evangelistic. Very evangelistic. They have evangelists that go out and spread Islam. This is a massive mosque that was directly across from where we stayed. And they basically are restoring it, and their president is a Muslim now. And so there's a lot of funding and encouragement for this. And so Islam is very much growing. This was our visit with Christopher in his home, and he made mandazi. Mandazi is a fried donut, basically. Very, very good. So we had the mandazi. And then the thing that was unique for these guys, that have never really been out of the country. Now, Josh, I think, had been to India, but Matthew had never been out of the U.S. So this is his first trip. And he's there, and it's dirt floors. It's different than what we're accustomed to. But they had guinea pigs just all over. I was excited for Christopher because this, guinea pigs are pretty good as far as eating goes. I don't know about y'all. I'm country. I went out in the woods and shot squirrels and ate them. Okay, I've eaten rabbit, and so I'm a little bit country. But for some people, they're like, "Oh, I can't believe you did that." What's the difference? A tree rat, a squirrel, and a rabbit, and then it's guinea pigs. They're just. But I know some people that have guinea pigs as pets, and they just are. It just blows their mind. But I was excited for him because that means they're able to now start eating meat, and those things just continue to reproduce, and they're able to eat that meat. It's good for the family. But it was different for those guys to sit there while the little guinea pigs, they make these little squeaking sounds, and to crawl up the leg, and they're like brushing on their leg, and we're eating our breakfast. And I think it was an experience for the guys, having been the first time out. But Christopher and his wife, they were so hospitable. And to have us in there and to do that, not ask for money, and to put out his best for us. It meant a lot to me. We love his family. And here they were doing their VBS, and they're on one of the benches that's out on the mango tree. I was able to do a Bible study. We did Bible studies every day, but this one stuck out. I was able to study with these ladies. But this lady right here is now a New Testament Christian. Now, I don't have a photograph of her baptism. I was able to study with her. I left. And they continued to follow up and work with her, and now she's a New Testament Christian. So it does make a difference being able to do these trips, to be able to spread these materials, and to be able to make these contacts. All right, now we went around. I showed them the open market. I missed the open market. I enjoyed the fresh produce, but it's not everybody's cup of tea. This aisle is the dried fish aisle, and it smells like you've had fish sitting out for days. You know, it has its smell, but it's dehydrated, it's preserved, and then they'll take these minnows. It's called daga. They'll take those minnows and they'll stick it in some water and boil it, and it rehydrates, because those are dehydrated minnows. You know, kind of like sardines. And they eat those. They put them in like a tomato stew, and you know, it's different. You know, it's different. You know, you guys eat catfish. I mean, if we took a Tanzanian and brought him over here and said, Drew, eat that. Yeah, we eat it. But it's not everybody's cup of tea, right? Somebody from California comes over here and sees us eating deer. What are y'all doing? But, you know, we have differences, even in our own country. All right. So we went door to door doing Bible studies, and it was a great blessing to be able to do that. And then here's the kids at their VBS, and some of the pictures from the VBS in Aringa with the girls, teaching them. We had different translators at different times, and we had one that went with us from Dar es Salaam all the way to the interior, and she did a very good job. At the end of our seminar, here we gave out the materials. Again, here's the books, The Church of the Bible by J.C. Choate, and the red one, the big one, is Why I'm a Member of the Church of Christ by Leroy Brownlow in Swahili. And so we were able to give out these resources to the brethren, and they were very excited about that. And then we had to say goodbye. So then we traveled. So we had gone all the way into the interior, and this shows you everywhere we had been. And then we had to turn around and take a flight back out so that we could leave. And so our flight out is a 15-passenger. You know, it's the one where the pilot turns around and says, it's going to be a little bumpy, y'all might want to buckle in, you know. And there's no announcement over the PA, he just turns around and tells you. And there's the picture on the inside. But it does get you every now and then when you hit that dead spot and the plane just falls a little bit, just like it feels like that, you know. And they're like, ooh. So my two of my girls, Lily and Mary Kate, are in Panama right now. They're on a mission trip, or they would be here with us. And so she had to fly on some small planes on this trip that they were going to, and they're on an island. And then they're going to different islands by boat to do VBSs there. And so we flew to the island of Zanzibar on our way out. Our last day, because I ran them very, very hard with very little sleep and constantly going and doing, was a bit of a rest day. We arrived there in the evening, and they were able to see the open market. This is a little bit of that open market. Zanzibar is the Spice Island, and it is 99.9% Muslim, so it's probably a little bit higher than that. I can't go high enough. It's not 100, but it's very close. And so it's mostly Muslim, so you know you're going to see Muslims walking around everywhere. And so we were able to stay there. It was really nice to be there. So day 19 was rest, but we were able to make contacts. So my girls wanted to get their hair done. And they always got to see people doing it, and they wanted to get their hair done. So they found some ladies that would do their hair, and they were getting their hair done. Well, they talked to them about the gospel, and one of the ladies was interested. So we sent her these materials. This is her having received them on an island that is 99.9% Muslim. So you just never know the contacts, you don't know where that will go, where those resources might end up, what good that potentially could do, but we've got to try to do our best to spread the gospel. You may have noticed that in these images I had a little bit fuller of a beard. There's a reason why I grew that thing, is because I knew we were going to end up in a country that was almost all Muslim. And so because I was responsible for making sure everybody was going around, and we didn't have a translator, I was the translator. And so I would tell them in Swahili, do this, do that, and we were going around, and I was able to do that, but it was for safety reasons. And then we flew back through Dubai. It's the first time for me to go into the Dubai, and we ate at the Hard Rock Cafe, and you can see Lily's hair done. She got her whole head done. She's like, I should have done this long ago. I wouldn't have had to worry about my hair the whole trip. She was wishing she'd done it at the first of the trip, because, it's a big to-do to try to have to do your hair every day. And so here is some images after the fact. These are just pictures that I've received throughout the year of books, because we printed 7,000 Church of the Bible by J.C. Choate, and we've printed several thousand of Why I'm a Member of the Church of Christ. Now, the Why I'm a Member of the Church of Christ, we printed it in color, and so it was a lot more expensive. And so we're looking at trying to print it just in black and white, and we're going to do another run of those very soon. But here's a congregation that has those books. I changed the color of the Church of the Bible to orange. Betty Choate had asked me to do that because that's what the color it is in English. And so if they call and ask for the orange book through World Evangelism, then they'll know which one if they want to print some. And so here's another congregation that has those resources and those books. Here's another congregation. They're going all over the country, and they're very helpful. They're very useful. They use them to teach in schools. They can teach religion, especially if they have one of the students in one of the schools that is a member of a congregation. They can go in and teach, and they can give those kids those resources. And there's questions at the end of the chapters, and they can fill those out. So here's some of the books and piles of them as we can see. And you can see we printed a bunch of those resources. Here's some of the gentlemen that had gone through. They received a certificate, and they used these books in a lot of different ways. In this instance, they used it as an incentive. As in, you've completed this Bible correspondence course, and here we're going to give you this, and then you continue to study that, and it works as a new convert resource to reaffirm their understanding. So it's used in a lot of different ways. Here's another one of the big congregations in Bea where they again have those resources. And so it's very vital. You can imagine just how blessed we are, to have copies of the Bible everywhere. We have multiple copies of the Bible. We have resources coming out our ears in our own language, and not to have any resources in your local language. How challenging that would be. It has been a blessing to be able to go and to work with the brethren there. Matthew, that went on this trip, it was challenging for Matthew. First trip out, one of the places we stayed was bad. Okay, you just never know. I'm looking on Booking.com trying to figure out this stuff because I've not been to Mwanza. This is my first trip to Mwanza. So I booked this place, and we go there, and it wasn't great. Like I told you. Matthew one night, after being exhausted, decided, I'm not going to go out to eat with you guys to get ice cream for Mary Kate's birthday. I'm really tired. I just want to sleep. So I'm going to go back to my room. I brought some food. I'm going to eat and rest. So, and he decided he wasn't going to use the mosquito net. His choice. And so he gets a can of tuna and he eats it. And then he, finishes it off or whatever, has his little can of tuna and crackers, and decides he's going to go to sleep. And he goes to sleep. Well, he got woke up with a nibble on the finger. And a rat thought it smelled good, decided he was going to eat on him a little bit. And my girls tried to tell him, Matthew, there's more than one reason why we put a mosquito net over us. It's not just for the mosquitoes. Because the geckos and other stuff will come around, and that was one of the things that comes around. I was asking the guys before that because we were miserable. We didn't even have a fan. I said, you guys ready to go to another place? There's other places to stay. We can move our stuff, and we can go to a place that's a little nicer. No problem. And they're like, no, we don't want to do that. That's trouble. After that, That morning, Matthew got up, his bags were packed, and he said, "Brother, I'm ready to go if you're ready to go." I said, "Okay." We went out, we did our seminar, we came back that afternoon, we packed up our bags. I settled my score with the place we were staying, and we went to another place that had AC and a place we could eat downstairs. It was really nice. And so I wanted them to have an experience. I didn't necessarily want Matthew to have something to chew on his finger. And he didn't get sick or anything from it, thankfully, but it did happen. So, but I'll say all of this to say, after that trip was over, Matthew was a little bit conflicted, because of the culture shock, and that's what he experienced. Now, I talked to Matthew. We went out to eat, not long ago, and he was ready to go back. He's like, "When are we making another trip?" Matthew is already working on a question and answer book to be translated into Swahili, because he saw these people have a lot of questions. They want answers. We can put something together like that, and we can print it out, and we can give it to them, and it could be a real benefit. And so he's already working on that in English, trying to get prepared to have it translated into Swahili. So he's really excited, and he saw the value of the printed page and what it can do and the difference it can make. And so it's interesting to think, before he was talking about how hard it was. Now he's like, "Dude, I want to go back. I'm ready." He's excited. He's had time to kind of think through everything and to overcome a little bit of the culture shock. And I'll tell you, it's culture shock. They had the time to overcome that and then come out on the other side and say, "You know what? That was a great trip. We were able to do a lot of good." And he just, you just keep thinking about the things that happened and to process where you were. It's a lot to see all at the small amount of time. But he's excited. And so, and Josh as well. Josh, the congregation he works with, the elders there, they go every year to India. And so I think he'll be going with his elder again to India. I don't know if I'll be able to garner him to go to another trip to Tanzania, because I believe he'll be going to India. But just think of the difference that it can make, the impact that you have had. You say, "Well, what have we done?" Well, you've been supporting this. You've been a part of that. You think about those people that have been reached, the contacts that have been made, the difference that can happen, the baptisms that have happened that I don't even know about. I try, but we send these books everywhere. I don't even know about those. Sometimes I get reports, sometimes I don't. They just go out and do what they're going to do. And the good seed, when it gets a hold of it, we know what happens. But you've been a part of that. And so I'm here today not only to report, but to say thank you. I very much appreciate that. You supported my family for many years while we lived over there, and even with this work and the printing, and we're very, very, very grateful. Any questions before we close out? Okay, it's a good question. The young ladies were bald. That's a requirement of school-aged children. So when Bright was looking at his wife, she was bald because she was still in school. But when she got done, she grew that hair out. And it's pretty hair, but it took a while. And it's a requirement. I don't 100% know. I don't know if it more or less has to do with cleanliness, and some of them have more challenging environments than others. And so those ladies, and you can tell which is a lady and which is not, but they shave their head. All Maasai women, the other tribe that I didn't have pictures of, they always have, even the old ladies, all of them have their heads completely shaved. But you can tell which ones are women, which ones are men. But that is a good question. And that's why you would see that on school-age children. The next question, Muslim population is not that heavy everywhere. When you move into the interior, it's not anything like what I was describing. Though Islam is growing, it's not over 50%. Oh, it's close. It's probably like 40%. So there's still a majority of non-Muslim. A lot of them would maybe fall under the category of generic believers in Christ. But Catholicism is quite large as well. Do they persecute? Excuse me. There have been instances where there has been things that have happened, but for the most part, it's been very peaceful. There's been some stuff come down from Kenya at the border of Kenya and Tanzania where there's been some persecution that has happened. There was the slaughter up at the Kenyan University a few years back, and they found some of the army uniforms and guns and stuff stored in a mosque in Morogoro. We were living there when that happened, and I didn't even know that until later on, and I was reading about some of the investigation. They found that out. So they're pretty peaceful in Tanzania. There hasn't been a big issue there, though there are still radicals that are spread out different places. The one thing that I learned about being around those individuals is you don't live your life with fear, and they don't. They don't live their life with fear. When the doctor told my wife when she had that explosion, breathed in that gas and had all that stuff and those burns, and she said, well, are you a Christian? And my wife said, yes. And she said, well, if you die, good. If you don't, good. I never understood that until I understood the mentality of the people there. They don't worry like you and I worry. And so if there's danger, they live with it every day. If death is going to come, it's just going to be today. It's not something that they worry with as much. And so it also helped to spurn our faith and to realize and to see that. Am I going to go to a place where there's Muslims? Yes. Is there going to be danger? Yes. Am I going to do my due diligence? Sure. But it's not going to keep me from going. But that's a very, very good question. There was accounts back in the day, it's probably been 10 years ago, 12 years ago, where a priest in Zanzibar got acid thrown on him. But it's not all the time. I mean, that's just like one random incident. Our girls are treated with respect because they can greet in Swahili with an appropriate greeting of respect, and they dress modestly. The tourists that come over there in a Muslim island that decide they're going to wear immodest clothes, they're not treated the same. And so you have to be mindful of that. Even though our girls didn't wear the veil, they were still dressed very modestly and were respectful. And that goes a long way. I have these coins in my hand. Now, these are for the kids. So if you know a kid that's about to come in here, I would like to give them one of these. But, if you think they're going to swallow it and choke, don't give it to them, okay? So help me out on that. But let's see if we can give these to the kids. This is a 500 piece. It's probably like 20 cents. 20 cents. It's 500 coin of shilling. It's a 500 shilling piece. So as they come in, make sure you send them up here to me. I think that's all. Our time is definitely out. I appreciate so much. All right, they're coming in to the left. All right. Well, I don't want to I need to make sure the parents are okay with it. That's not my left. This died. All right. Well.